Sometimes these students engage in acts that are bad choices, bad mistakes. Sometimes they might have an undiagnosed disability. And our goal is always to ensure that all of these young individuals really are able to achieve whatever educational success is possible, but really to keep them engaged in the school process. So that's what we're striving for. I'm joined today by Jacqueline and Veronique, and each of them can talk a little bit more about their experience working last semester in the clinic. Jacqueline's actually continuing on with us as an advanced student, and perhaps talking about some of their highlights and some of their challenges that they experienced while a student advocate. So Jacqueline, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline. I am a 4L here at Southwestern, so I'm a seasoned veteran here at the school. Yes, as Professor Waterstone said, I'm in the Children's Rights Clinic, and I love the experience so much that I decided to continue on this semester. The Children's Rights Clinic is such a wonderful experience. I experienced some of the other programs here at Southwestern, but I have to say that the Children's Rights Clinic has been the most impactful and the most rewarding to me as an experience here at Southwestern. With regard to challenges with the clinic, I think one of the most jarring and kind of out of this world experiences is when you kind of first get thrown into the clinic, and Professor Waterstone kind of alluded to the fact that you're an associate in this clinic, and you're still kind of trying to understand the law, and you're still kind of trying to get your feet wet, but you kind of are thrown in and you start kind of becoming a real lawyer. And so you kind of have to start trusting your instincts and letting go of that student feeling like, oh, should I be doing this? Or, oh, let me ask professor, all of that. You kind of just have to start trusting your instincts, and you really get to see what it's like to practice as a real attorney under partners in a firm. So that, I think, is maybe a challenge for you, maybe something that's like really appealing to you. I do work as a paralegal, but I haven't really had an experience like that where I'm kind of the attorney on the case and I have to make certain decisions based on what I understand about the law. So that, I think, was a challenge for me, kind of letting go and going for it. But if that's something that really appeals to you and that's something that you feel that you could really thrive in, then I think that may not even be a challenge for you. That may be a bonus for you. With regard to successes in the clinic, I mean, I had a couple of great successes with my partner, Kevin O'Neill. One of our major successes, and Professor Waterstone talked about this a little bit, was getting an IEP for a student. We had one case that was really, really difficult to overcome. The school was just really against us, and the child had been denied multiple times. It was a child that had experienced a lot of trauma in her life, was homeless, had moved to so many different schools, had been absent, had missed over 300 days of school. And it was a really, really difficult case to overcome. And we ended up getting an IEP for her. And her grandma, who was her guardian, I mean, I'll never forget this call. We were all on Zoom together, and she was on the phone after the meeting, and she was just crying, and she was just thanking us. And she was so grateful. She was so grateful. And that was such a cool, rewarding experience, to do, because sometimes I think in law school, we get kind of bogged down with, oh, I need to get the good grades. I need to get an externship. I need to do this and I need to do that. And we're all kind of working towards making ourselves better, which is not a bad thing. But when you do something like this, you actually utilize your skills and your advocacy to make a difference in someone else's life. I mean, it's kind of just a great experience. And as Professor Waterstone and Fee would say, it feeds your soul and just makes you feel really good about what you're doing. So that was a really amazing experience for me. I'll never forget it. Another great success that we had was working with the school. Obviously in COVID times, it's a little bit difficult. Some of these parents don't want to send their kids back to school,
Jacqueline, before you get too far in this, I just want to
Sure.
pause on that last case to
Yes.
give a little context. This student was not eligible at all for special education, and she was not thriving in
Right.
school. And the grandma's exact words were, "You have turned," or I don't know exact, but paraphrasing closely, was, "You've turned this child's life around and given her an opportunity that she would not have otherwise had," which I think kind of encapsulates the entire experience. And I think that was in large part due to your efforts that you kept fighting at every meeting and pushing for her to become eligible. You can move on. I just wanted to really frame that because I think that was a real highlight.
It's worth noting. I mean, it was such an incredible feeling. As I mentioned before, it's just something I'll never forget. And that's, I think, what we kind of look for when we try to do new experiences and really put ourselves out there and really work hard at something that we may not fully understand or fully know, or fully feel comfortable with. But, once you get that result at the end, oops, I'm sorry. I'm at work. Once you get that result at the end, it's really, really impactful and really powerful. And just as I was saying, we were able to settle a case in another case where the child was able to get services virtually in a district that there was a lot of tension, and the district was really not willing to give us any virtual services because the students were returning back to campus and all that. But we were able to settle in the end with the district. And in that case, again, I mean, just the feeling that you get from the parents and how grateful they are and that you've really been able to make a difference in their lives is just really, really incredible. So I highly recommend this experience. As Professor Waterston alluded to as well, I will be we just filed a due process complaint, and we'll be engaging in what they're calling an informal resolution session. That'll be next week. So I'll be meeting with the attorneys for the district, and we're going to try to come to some kind of agreement. We're on pretty opposite sides at the moment. But again, it's just another cool experience to actually negotiate with attorneys and try to use your advocacy and your skills that you've learned to hopefully get a great result for a child that has really been suffering and has really, not been able to get the services that this child is entitled to because of failures on the side of the school district. So to be an integral and, be so immersed in such an environment is a really rewarding and incredible experience. And I highly recommend it to everyone. So on that wonderful note, I will hand it over to my colleague, Veronique.
Hello, everyone. I'm Veronique. And I had the pleasure of joining Jacqueline this last fall in the children's clinic. And I come to the clinic with a little bit of a different backstory. I'm a mom myself. I have a child in the district. I have a 6-year-old, and I'm like, you know what? This is something like I'm partial to kids. I'm like, I want to do this. I care about my child's education, and I want to I want to help another family. But I had no idea what this was going to entail. And honestly, it was challenging because you get so attached to these families. You get so they bring you in and they're lovely people, but they just feel so limited. And the pandemic didn't help. And, we had one case of 2 brothers, both were special needs. One brother is a high school student, and he had virtually no credits his first year of high school because of the pandemic and because he was so set back with how bad online learning was for him. He needed that support in person. And throughout the semester, I swear, he blossomed. He was flourishing. I was so proud, but yet we were struggling to be on the same page as the parent. And here we have a different case where with Jacqueline, that grandma was so grateful for the help and she wanted that for her grandchild. But here, sometimes you get different families. Our parent was more of a hand-holding parent whereas she didn't really trust the district. She wasn't sure she wanted her child to go back. And then, you've got both sides of the spectrum there. But, we tried to help her see that this was the right thing for this child, for her son to be back in person, because he was flourishing. He was getting credits. He was on track for graduation. And honestly, I was so proud of how far he came in just the one semester that we served him. Same thing for his little brother. He's in elementary school, and I believe also has ADHD and is on the autism spectrum. And he went from like, I think very like small goals to completely meeting all of his goals in his IEP. And of course, that would be, normal or just baseline for any time that wasn't the pandemic. But now it's huge strides in just one semester. And it's really challenging because everything is through Zoom. You can't, there's just so many limitations with not being able to meet with the staff and the faculty of the schools in person, not being able to be there and kind of converse and come to a resolution quicker. And you just feel like you're so like tied back. And you are able to have IEPs, you're able to have 504 meetings for those children that aren't that don't qualify under the IEP. But either way, it's really tough because of the virtual like learning. And then, some schools are just barely coming back. So I would say the biggest challenge was definitely trying to just ease back into it or acclimate back into being in person, because we kind of got that beginning part of it. When we brought one of the students, I think he had missed like the first 10 days of school because one kid got COVID in his classroom. And then, these kids are missing school. There's no tablet. They're not providing these kids with what they need. And who's on top of that? Nobody. So you have to be that advocate. Like Jacqueline said, you can't wait and email your professor everything and wait for a response. You have to be on top of it. You're the certified law student. At this point, you're that person, you're that point person. And at first, my partner Michelle and I were a little nervous to take that on ourselves. And then, Professor Fee was our supervising attorney, and she's like, nope, you guys have like a 24-hour turnaround time. You got to be quick. So at that point, as soon as we would get any emails, we're like, this needs to happen right now, not acceptable. And it got kind of fun being able to call the shots, definitely. And yeah, I would say it gives you that sense like, this is what I came to law school for. Like, this is what it's about. Yes, you come here to learn black letter law. You come here to learn about, like the philosophy behind law. You come here to learn about the Constitution, but also you come here to work like a lawyer. You come here to learn these skills, the advocacy, and nothing is going to teach you that more than the clinics. And here we were so blessed, and our group was so amazing. We just meshed so well. And the professors, again, like, they're gems. Professor Waterstone and Professor Fee are amazing. And they were always available to us for anything. Like I said, there really isn't a major challenge that you can't overcome, other than, unfortunately, because of the time that we are in the world, there was the COVID challenges. But other than that, really, it's just, you're going to meet parents that are so nervous, and I get it. They're traumatized because of nobody has ever been there for their children, and you're that first person. So they don't know how to trust you. Sometimes you're going to meet people like that. But by the end of the semester, this woman really opened up, and I was really sad to not be able to continue because I didn't have like the unit space for it, but I might next semester. But yeah, it's definitely so rewarding. I can't say enough accolades about it. It's an amazing experience. The successes are, any little thing that happens, you just are so happy for these kids. You help them, and you ask them. Sometimes they'll be a part of the meetings, and you ask them how they're feeling, how they like being back in school, and they're like, I really miss my friends. I really like being back in school. And that just warms your heart, because you know that you're doing the right thing. You're helping them out. You're helping them meet their goals, and making sure that the district is responsible for what they haven't been implementing. So really, like I said, it's an amazing program. It's so rewarding. I cannot say enough. And yeah, there's really nothing else other than it's amazing. I loved it. I cannot say, it's absolutely my favorite thing about law school. I can't say enough great things. Thank you.
Thank you, Vero. One of the takeaways that I'm hearing from these students is You are building your skills and learning to be a lawyer while in law school. And it's not your bar license, it's ours. So you have a little bit of that safety net, but also that you get to have an impact on someone's life. And it doesn't have to be winning a major case, or some kind of drastic incident. It can be those small successes that really can have an impact on both your life and the lives of other individuals. Thank you both so much for sharing. I will pass it over to Professor Julia Vasquez in the Community Lawyering Clinic.
Thank you. So great to hear about what's going on in children's rights. And I'm Julia Vasquez, the director of the Community Lawyering Clinic. And we're going to transition to learn about what is the Community Lawyering Clinic, and really continue this vein of developing skills while impacting our communities and making change. The Community Lawyering Clinic is very unique in that we serve another institution, and that is California State University Northridge, CSUN. So my students and I, run the legal clinic for all 40,000 undergraduates and graduate students. We're busy folks, but it's so rewarding to use this term that we heard a lot in children's rights. And to share a little bit about what the big picture of community lawyering is, I put a quote by Audre Lorde in the chat box. There is no such thing as a single issue struggle, because we do not live single issue lives. And if you don't know who Audre Lorde is, please know who she is. Look her up. Feminist, activist, Black rights, just all around inspirational. And her quote translates perfectly to community lawyering. We do not live single issue lives. Therefore, our legal matters are also often not single issue. And there's nowhere we feel this more than in the Community Lawyering Clinic. Our main goals are legal empowerment. And that's legal empowerment through intakes and consultations of really complex and layered legal matters, which our two students will talk about today. And we host formal legal empowerment workshops that we design based on the needs that we see. So everything from Cannabis Law 101, which is very popular, all the way to health advocacy and everything in between. We provide pro bono representation. So that's where are attorneys of record for immigration and immigrants' rights cases. But we also provide intake and consultation and connect folks to lawyers for any legal matter. And that has been really exciting for me, but also for my students. I really resonated with that feeling of, I can do this. You can do this. This is what lawyers do. There's no lawyer in the world that knows all the law. We have to research it. And finally, in community lawyering, we develop cutting edge lawyering skills, whether that is lawyering remotely or having everything off-site. It's also part of working with a younger client base. So you will get to learn more from our wonderful speakers. Heba Ara and Julissa Salguero are both here to speak to you today. They have both been in the Community Lawyering Clinic, both advanced Community Lawyering Clinic students, and Heba is now my TA, and hopefully Julissa will be my TA in the future. So we'll start off with hearing from Heba and then Julissa. Heba, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Professor Vasquez. I'm really, really happy to be here today. And when I heard about it, it was a yes, because we always ask from Professor Vasquez, and she's always yes to everything. So I did not want to miss an opportunity to say yes to her. I am Heba Ara, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm a 3L evening student with Julissa and Veronica. I participated in the community lawyering clinic in the spring of 2021, and then I passed on as an advanced in the following fall, and I'm currently a TA with Professor Vasquez. I've also done the immigration clinic, and I'm currently at the street law clinic, and this is because this extended involvement in all of the clinics, and especially the community lawyering clinic, goes to show just how impactful and how addicting these experiences are. You just can't get enough that really beautiful feeling, that warmth you feel in your heart when you've really did something good. It's just beautiful, and especially if it involves helping somebody, because we truly, truly do help people, and we turn their lives upside down. Changing somebody's fear from being deported to feeling secure is the greatest thing I think that somebody could do. And like Professor Vasquez said, we work with the CSUN students, and I am myself a CSUN alumna. So I couldn't pass on this opportunity for me to express my gratitude to that community for helping me get through my undergrad as a foreigner. I've always felt supported at CSUN, so I wanted to make sure that I do the same for students at CSUN. Like Professor Vasquez said, we provide a range, and I think this is the difference between our clinic and the other clinics. We do not specialize in one area of law. We provide and we help with everything we can. And even when we cannot help, we at least make sure that, like Professor Vasquez likes to say, that we empower folks and that we educate them on their rights. For example, when COVID hit, we saw a huge rise, both in the clinic and my law firm, of the landlord-tenant issues. And with CSUN students that I've done consultations with, I was so surprised and sad to know that most of them did not know what habitability means. And most of them, their homes did not qualify. They were not habitable. And they did not know that they had rights, that they could ask the landlords for improvements. And even when we were not able to intervene, we at least made sure to explain to them, this is the basics you need at your home. Mold is not okay, no matter how small it is. So we always make sure they leave with some sort of information, if not legal representation. As far as challenges, I think what was most challenging for me then was separating my emotions from cases we were working on, because it could be very, very heavy to hear about a peer, whether a boy or a girl who's your age, and here you are thriving in law school and they live in their cars, or they're always afraid, even walking in the street, thinking that ICE is going to deport them. And believe it or not, it gives you nightmares that night, especially because you're involved and it's real. Helping people does not come with just that beautiful feeling. It comes with an internal fear that eats you every day, because you cannot mess this up. You just cannot. It's a life. It's really a life. So it was really, really challenging for me, because I wanted to do everything and anything I could, so it would haunt me. And it started impacting me really, because, I would cry after a consultation, and I would spend hours and hours not accepting the fact that I couldn't find an answer. So really the moral of this lesson was that mental health is very, very important. It's very important for you to take care of yourself, because if you don't, then you can't take care of other people. And for me, Professor Vasquez was and is still my mentor, and an incredible person with a kind heart. We connected and spoke every week during case supervision about everything that I felt. She made sure, and that it was okay. She made sure I knew it was okay to feel bad for your clients, but you need to learn to separate. And one thing I've learned through her was to start journaling. And I added to that meditation. So after a consultation, if something is heavy, I would talk to her, I would write it, and, just let it out. So if you go into any clinic, please make sure you take care of yourself and know that you are going to cry and it's okay. But just don't bottle up, because those people need you and they need you healthy. For success, honestly, for me, I was so fortunate to have worked in successful cases. All of the cases we did were successful, and usually Professor Vasquez would not take a client unless she knows for sure that we can help. If she knows, if she has the slightest doubt, she would make sure we refer them to the right person, the right legal clinic or office that would really help them. So we are always fortunate to really be successful with our cases. Although my first case will always be the one that I would remember. He was a CSUN student as well, and I helped him with his DACA renewal. I freaked out. I didn't know what DACA was. And I just knew I had to do it because it depends, his life depends on me. His ability to work and support himself depends on me. And we tried to convince him to apply for advanced parole, which is a risky travel authorization. He could be denied to come back. It took him a year, but yesterday he reached out because he feels ready to do it. And although it's really scary, and I'm sure Professor Vasquez is scared too because we're taking a risk, it really warmed my heart to see that he trusted us. He came back to us and he really is landing his fate in our hands because he truly believes in us. And if he does believe in us, then it's because he sees something that we're not seeing and that we can do it. And that's why it's so rewarding, like everyone said, to be part of such an amazing community. And so far, it's been the best, really, the best journey in law school. I will always remember this. Thank you so much, Professor Vasquez. I will pass it on to Julissa.
Thank you, Heba. And so I'll just set up Julissa and also say essential skills that you learn in the clinic are ones that are not often taught in traditional doctrinal classes, and that is sustainability, mental health, and wellness. We want to be sustainable lawyers, not supernovas that shine bright and hard and then diminish, right? We need to be healthy both physically and emotionally for our practice. And those are the things that I'm constantly embedding into community lawyering. So Heba, thank you so much for setting that up. And I'll pass the baton to Julissa to share about her experience as well.
Hello. My name is Julissa Salguero, and I'm a part-time evening student, a 3L. I participated in the community lawyering clinic last semester, and as Professor Vasquez said, I'm part of the advanced clinic. I'm really enjoying the advanced clinic right now because all of the skills that I've learned from last semester, I'm able to teach the clinical students. So I'm helping them, I'm walking them, I'm walking them through the path of where I've already been, and I'm facilitating that for them. I've gotten emails where the students are very nervous and they're like, I don't even know where to start. And I'm like, since I've been there, I put them down, I meet with them, I walk them through the procedures, and I'm really enjoying teaching them what I learned from Professor Vasquez. So it was challenging because you try to figure it all out, and then you do your research, and then you get inspired because you want to solve the problem. And then if we're not able to solve the problem, then we find someone that's the appropriate person to be able to assist that person. But what I loved was after we meet with the intakes, we meet with Professor Vasquez and we discuss the case. And then at that point, she would make me look at the facts and be able to see it from a different perspective. And she would actually point out different issues that I wasn't able to spot. Another thing that really helped me out was as time went by, I learned to be more concise. So when I'm briefing Professor Vasquez with a case, less is more. And that in return also helped me out with my essay writing. That really helped me out, It's like, let's get to the bottom line, the core issues, and discuss those. One of the things that Eva mentioned was taking care of yourself. I want to help the world. I want to do everything I can for them as fast as I can, and whatever they need, I'm there. But it really takes a toll out of you. I needed to change. I actually spoke with Professor Vasquez, and I had to change my, my approach, because it was not attainable. And if you're not well, then you are not able to help them. And once I changed my approach, I actually saw the difference. I was actually more able to be more engaged, had more time to, if I was becoming overwhelmed, it was okay that I actually moved my meeting a couple of days, because instead of trying to rush and get through all of my meetings and become overwhelmed and try to help, it just didn't make any sense. It was, no, take time, you breathe, you handle this intake, and then you move on to the next one. At the beginning, my first intake was very overwhelming. It was, we had a paraplegic. She had about 4 or 5 issues. The first one was the most critical one. The neighbor was trying to attack her. So that turned into a restraining order. So we started moving really fast on that case. Okay. I had to move, try to get her to a nonprofit to try to help her with the paperwork and get that filed as soon as possible. Then we had an issue with service, because they were actually able to remove the neighbor. So there was a whole other layer to that. Then she actually wanted accommodations to have her parking spot moved closer because of the safety issues. And the manager was refusing to do that as well. Her wheelchair kept getting stuck in her apartment on the carpet. They wouldn't change the carpet either. Then she ended up going to the hospital. It wasn't wheelchair accessible. Somebody ended up just helping her there. But, it was just, that just became, multi-layered. And it's like, it was one issue over another issue. And I was really overwhelmed. But Professor Vasquez, she stopped me and she's like, it's okay. We're going to have to deal with every issue depending on the circumstance and which one has the priority and which one is more urgent than, the other. So she had me explain that to the client, and I actually ended up taking care of the client for the rest of the semester. And what I loved was I wasn't going to give up. I wanted to help her and have all of her issues resolved, but it was just impossible. But at the end, I was actually able to find a nonprofit that was able to help her with all of her outstanding issues. And we were so excited that she was teary-eyed. I was teary-eyed because she thanked me and I thanked her for allowing me to help her. It was a privilege to be able to have served her and to get her the help that she needed, because that's what it's about. It's about giving back to the community and helping people. Like Eva said, there's no more rewarding feeling than that. And I apologize for getting sentimental. Another client that I had assigned to me, also, I kept getting the clients that kept giving, she also had 2 other issues arise, and I was happy to help. She ended up having an appeal. I had dealt with that because friends of friends somehow say Julie works in the legal world, and somehow I always get pulled in. So I was able to help her out with that. And then also when I met with Professor Vasquez and I mentioned, she's no longer working where she was at, Professor Vasquez like, did you ask her why she's not working there? And since she kind of skipped over it, I didn't even think to even ask her. I didn't want to pry, but Professor Vasquez made it a point for me to follow up. And I'm glad she did, because it was wrongful termination. So sometimes when you're interviewing a client, you have to take the time and listen to everything. And then it's your job to be an investigator. And you ask as many questions as you can. You allow them to tell you the story. And then you go back and then you fill in the holes and the gaps. And if you're not sure, it's okay. There's a follow-up meeting. You're in control. And then you meet with Professor Vasquez and you take the initiative. I see these issues. I feel like I'm going to approach it this way. What are your thoughts? And then she provides you with input. Also, what I really loved was class readings and discussions. The class readings provided us with techniques on how to handle the intakes. And then during discussions, we also had mock intakes. So we actually practiced everything beforehand. So then that way we knew what to expect. But everything wasn't that easy. There was always those challenges and everything. But you know what? We learned how to implement procedures so that we can be more organized dealing with multi-issue types of cases. So I love the experience that I had with Professor Vasquez, and I learned so much. Professor Vasquez will provide you with the tools that you need, but it's up to you to use the tools that are given in order to succeed. Part of my successes were I handled 7 intakes. And as I mentioned to you, my complicated first one, and the client that had the additional 2 issues, I'm still helping her this semester as well. I also was recognized as a clinic student for having being a great advocate for the clients. There was only 1 student for each of the clinics, and I was honored to be recognized for the community lawyering clinic. And one other thing that I believe is that was rewarding and that the clinic gave back to me was helping me with public speaking. I was terrified, okay, of public speaking. But because we did our workshop, I learned how much it takes for you to prepare, how practice makes a big difference, and also to make it conversational. It doesn't have to be exact. And it's okay if you don't have to be so structured. You can allow yourself a little bit of wiggle room and to just discuss it and trust yourself that you know it. You know the topic, and you're basically explaining it to someone and teaching it to someone. So it helped me build confidence. And now I volunteer during class. So I'm sharing my great experience, and I hope that you guys also join the community lawyering clinic. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Julissa. So as you can see, you know, the relationships that all of us clinical professors build with our students is deep. It's important. It lasts beyond the clinic. And that's what we're here for. And that really is our expertise. We're experts in the content area, but we're also experts in teaching that skill, those skills that are essential in practicing. So thank you so much to all of our student speakers. I'll turn it over to Heidi, who will transition us. A big round of applause to our 4 student speakers. Thank you so much. I'm reinvigorated, as always.
Yeah, so thank you also to you both, our clinic professors, our leaders. But we did want to open it up now to you all in case you have any questions. So you can add those in the chat box or feel free to raise your hand and we can call on you. But yes, thank you also to our amazing speakers. We'll go first to Caitlin.
Hi, thank you everyone who spoke and gave your perspective. I was just wondering, what does the time commitment look like? And is there like formal classroom time set aside in addition to like actual work time? And what does that all look like?
So yes, there is, it's 5 units for both of our clinics. So we have formal 2 hours per week of formal class meetings. It depends on when. Sometimes we offer it in the evening, but generally, for example, community lawyering is Tuesdays 1:30 to 3:30. Then each clinic requires office hours. And depending on the clinic, it might be 3 office hours. And depending on the clinic as well, some of them might be remote. As we move to in-office, they'll be in office at the law school in our legal clinic space. And then you'll also have case supervision. And on top of all that, it is 5 units. You'll be doing work outside of those 3 hours. So it's a big commitment. It's 5 units of your course load. Much of the feedback that we get is that students want to actually spend more time on that as opposed to less because it's a live person. You're so motivated. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Carrie's question next.
Hi, thank you for being here and having this information session. I'm wondering, can you take more than one clinic at a time, or is this something that would be, one semester you could do one type of clinic and then move into the other? Thank you.
You want to take it, Professor Waterstone?
Sure. So you can take more than one clinic, but we would not suggest that you take more than one clinic at any given time. We also don't recommend taking a clinic and an externship at the same time because it's just an incredible time commitment for both. And similarly for clinics, it's an incredible time commitment. But as you heard from Heba, she's taken several clinics and that's worked incredibly well for her and she's been successful. But I think it's not advisable to do it in the same semester, but certainly something that you can do over your law school career. Thank you.
And you'll see people get hooked on the clinics as well. Once they take it, they're like, where have you been all my life, all my law school life? Oh, Heba.
Oh, I just wanted to add, if that will help Carrie, because I took 2 clinics. I want to mention that Professor Waterstone said, it is really difficult and usually it has to get the approval of one of the directors, but it is really difficult for me. I've been working at a law firm as a director of legal operations for almost 4 years, so I am used to that fast pace and I do have a little bit of experience, but the first semester I've only took 1 and it's a load of, so I would suggest doing that. And if you feel like you can the following semester take on another and do 2, then yes, but definitely start with 1.
And so Heba, I believe you were specifically talking about a clinic and then advanced. Yes?
Yes.
So Heba took, I believe, immigration law clinic and advanced community lawyering.
Correct.
And in that situation, it's unique because it's less units and Heba was working on continuing cases. So that's a different situation, but it is definitely not advisable or allowed to take street law and children's rights at the same time. There's just no time.
Okay,
Jessie.
Hi, thank you for having us here. My question is more about the cases about, do you take any cases to trial? Does that ever happen?
So in the Children's Rights Clinic, we do have cases that proceed, and I'm cautious in my language and I'll explain. We have, with school discipline cases, we have hearings and they act like mini trials, and those happen as often as we get school discipline cases. We don't have those expulsions all the time, but we have a few a year, and those look like mini trials. You're making an opening statement, you're examining witnesses, cross-examining witnesses, but it's in an administrative law type setting, so it's much more informal. With our due process cases, which fall under special education, we file those complaints and they're on track to go to trial. But I will tell you, every single complaint we filed has settled in mediation. And the reason for that is the cases that we file on are strong cases, and they're not likely to, school districts are not likely to want to pursue them, because if you go to trial, then you're facing far more in attorney's fees, you're facing expert witness fees, and the fees just rack up and school districts don't want to pay them. So that, I think that's a big reason why they settle, but you could see a trial. It's just hasn't been overly likely in our situation. Professor Vasquez, do you want to answer for your clinic?
I try to avoid going to trial as much as possible in my clinic because If we go to trial, it means that we've lost at all the agency levels. So it means that we've affirmatively applied before the Immigration Service. That's been denied. We filed the appeal. That's been denied. And our client is now facing removal. Does that opportunity exist? Yes, but Jesse, I fight so hard for that opportunity not to arise, because in immigration court, it's extremely traumatizing for your client. If you ever want to go to one of the most high stakes court, it's immigration court. So we do have a few cases that do have open immigration hearings before the Executive Office of Immigration Review. It's also administrative law, but the immigration judges very much treat it like trial, pomp and circumstance. They wear robes. It feels like you're in federal court. So I will do everything in my power to not get to that level, but sometimes our cases do arise to that. That being said, we do pro se trial prep for our non-immigration cases. And that means when the client cannot find an attorney that will take on their case, and this actually happens a lot, even with the private bar, then we will prep that individual, everything from their declaration to their exhibit list to helping them with their direct and their closing statement. This could be in small claims court. This could be in civil court. And so we really do it all the way up to the line of representation. We do not cross that line. So it's a lot of pro se prep. It feels like we're going to trial. But it is, I would say those are, maybe like 3 or 4 cases to do the trial prep with someone. And it's mainly in small claims.
If you are truly seeking that experience, the clinics that are most likely to go into court, I won't necessarily say trials, but to go into court would be either the family law clinic or the eviction defense clinic, which is a new clinic we added this semester. And we will be having clinic conversations for sure for the family law clinic and possibly for eviction defense, but you can also come to our clinic information session, which will be held late in March, where you can learn more about that opportunity. Thank you.
So do we have any other questions? Oh, Jesse.
I have another question. Are law students allowed to follow the case through all the way through mediation and settlement agreements?
And I assume that you're referring to what I mentioned in the Children's Rights Clinic in those cases. And yes, as long as you become a certified law student, which in order to become a certified law student, we ask our students to all do that. You have to file paperwork with the California Bar and certify that you're going to be supervised by either a full-time professor or someone who's agreeing to take on no more than a certain number of students. You have to get something from the dean of students, but we ask that all of our students do so that you are able to participate in mediation and attend hearing if that opportunity presents itself.
And same for community lawyering. If our client needs, it's more negotiation with government counsel. So in the past, when we've had clients who were subject to like at-home confinement or we're asking for prosecutorial discretion, it's actually the law students who are doing the majority of the negotiation, of course, CCing the supervising professors. So even though I try to avoid getting to that level, when we do get to it, I really try to keep the student who started the case working on, and it's likely through an advanced clinical opportunity if it doesn't happen during the initial semester.
That was going to be the last piece that I added was not always does it happen in one single semester, but like Jacqueline was talking about, the case that we filed it last semester, but she continued on, her and her partner, Kevin O'Neill, continued on this semester as advanced students so that they could be able to participate in the mediation and see the case. If it goes to trial, then they'll be the ones who are doing most of the trial with our supervision.
Okay, so I don't see any other hands, so I'm going to close our program. As Professor Waterstone had mentioned, we do have 2 other events going on for our conversation series, and you can find the registration information on the Today at Southwestern announcements, and we have flyers posted up if you're on campus. But again, I want to thank our clinic professors. I want to thank our wonderful student speakers for presenting today. We'll stay on a little bit after if you do have any other questions, but I want to thank you all for attending as well.
Bye, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.